So sometimes I go a little, I go out there, you know what I mean? Because
Man, but you can't help but be but passionate about Yah.
yeah, it's what Yah's called us to, right? And if anything, we have to be passionate about what he's talking about. Because
Man.
as it stands right now, I mean, it's tough out here, you guys, and we have to have something to look to and something that's going to be of value to us and something that's going to continue to give us strength because we need to be strengthened. You know, um, last week or a few days ago we were in Deuteronomy chapter number 8. Today I want to deal and just kind of touch a little bit on 8, on 9 and 10. I just been led to like stay in this book because it's talking about his words, right? And it really goes strong about what the attitude was of the children of Israel and how we ourselves have a lot of the same things and personalities and everything that they had, right? So I want to begin by reading in chapter number 9. It says, "Listen, Israel, you are to cross the Jordan today." This is Moshe talking to the second generation of the children of Israel who did not die in the wilderness, but the children of the people who died. And he says, "Go in, dispossess the nations greater and stronger than you, great cities fortified up to the sky, a people great, tall, Anakim, who you know about and whom you have heard. It is said, who can stand before the descendants of Anak? Therefore, understand today that Yahweh, your Elohim himself, cross ahead of you as a devouring fire." Okay. So you're always going to hear Yah as a consumer. You're always going to hear him as he makes reference to him. He's always talking about him being a consuming fire or a devouring fire. Okay. Now, when he went over and he crossed ahead of them to go into that land, he didn't show up as fire. He didn't show up as a fire. He said you will be as a devouring fire, meaning that he's going to consume these people, okay, through destroying them, and he will bring them down before you. Thus, you will drive out and cause them to perish quickly, as Yahweh has said to you. Okay. Don't think to yourselves that after Elohim has pushed them out of ahead of you, it is my reward for my righteousness that Yahweh has brought me in to take possession of this land. Okay. No. And look how he says it. He says no. It's because these nations have been so wicked that Yahweh is driving them out ahead of you. Okay. It is not because of your righteousness or because your heart is so upright that you go in and take possession of their land, but to punish the wickedness of these nations that Yahweh your Elohim is driving them out ahead of you. And also, okay, this is one of the most important things, is that also to confirm the word which he had spoken to your ancestors. Okay. He's going to confirm it. He swore this to Abraham, to Yitzchak, and Yaakov. So, therefore, understand. I need us to understand that it's not for your righteousness that Yahweh, your Elohim, is giving you this good land. Okay. It's a good land. It's the most beautiful land of all lands. He's not giving it to them because of any righteousness they had or anything. He says, "For you are a stiff-necked people. And remember, and don't forget how you made Yahweh angry in the desert from the day that you left the land of Mizraim." Why? Because they still had their gods. Until you arrived at this place, you have been rebelling against Yahweh. That's a lot of things that often we think that they had a good relationship with the Creator. And the bottom line is they didn't. They've been rebelling against Yah for the moment they left Mitzrayim, when they had gods in their hands, okay, and they wouldn't let go of the gods, even up until the time when they were about to cross the Jordan River. They were rebelling against Yahweh that whole time. And that's
And,
why he calls them a stiff-necked people.
and you know what's amazing, brother Dawid, is
Yes.
that they were worshiping those gods, but those gods couldn't even deliver them. So once y'all came and delivered them, why would you still hold on to them? I just don't get that.
Forrest and I talk about it all the time. Like, he's like, what's wrong with us? right? Because we can't really say what's wrong with them. What's wrong with us?
You're right.
Because
You're right.
our people, man, we are stiff-necked. And Yah says that you guys are stiff-necked and you are constantly rebelling. What does rebellion mean? We have a bitter attitude against what he says. Okay. We don't want to do what he asks us to do. We won't listen to his voice. It says that also in Korev, the place of when he gave them, and Sinai is another name, you made Yahweh angry, and Yahweh was angry enough to destroy you. Do you know the only reason why we're here today is because Moshe went up there and interceded with Yah? That's the only reason why we're here today. Is because Moshe interceded, okay, for Yah. Now, I want to take a little pit stop right quick, and I want to go somewhere.
Brother Dawid.
Yes, sir.
Just really quickly, I'm gonna have to sign off. I got an issue, but as soon as I get home, I'm gonna jump back on.
Sure,
Sorry,
no
my
worries.
brothers.
Yeah, no worries at all. We know what you're doing. We love you. Go ahead, take care of it.
Okay. Right on, brother.
Okay.
Right.
Yes. All right. So we're gonna take a little pit stop right here, and I want to show you something. Okay. I want to show you why it's so important not to abandon the words of Moshe. Okay. Why it's so important not to forsake why or who Yah sent to us to understand. So right now we're in Deuteronomy chapter 9. I'm going to go over to the book of Exodus. Okay. Exodus chapter number 19. All right. We're going to go to Exodus 19, and Exodus in Hebrew is called Shemot. Okay. Shemoth. And Shemoth means the names that Yah declares. He starts giving names out. Okay. So Exodus chapter number 19, right before you get to the 10 commandments, Yah has set the stage. Okay. So we're going to do a little reading. And at any given time, I want you guys to please make sure that you ask questions. Okay. I want you to ask questions. I don't want you to be afraid to ask them. That's why we're here. It's not so I can just read to you, but I want to give you some understanding about why Yah has chosen Moshe, okay, to be the one for us to listen to. Because if you don't know that, a lot of people don't understand it. They think that, well, you know, Paul wrote some epistles, and so therefore we should listen to that because it's a holy writing. Or, you know, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, they wrote, you know, some writings called the Gospels. And so that would be considered, you know, a holy manuscript. And so there are a whole host of different writings, okay, outside of what we call the Tanakh, which is the Torah, the Navaim, which is the prophets, and the Ketuvim. It is apparent that the Most High used Moshe, and he was always going to use Moshe. That's why when we read in the book of Malachi, it says, remember the Torah of Moshe, okay? It says in the third month, okay? This is very, very important. In the third month, okay? Not 3 months later, okay? It's just saying in the third month. The first month is called Aviv. It's a Hebrew word called Aviv, okay? Aviv. It's pronounced with a V sound instead of a B sound, but this is how you spell it. You transliterate it like this. Aviv, okay? Aviv. That's the first month that Yah, and you can look at this in Exodus chapter number 12. He tells you that will be the beginning of the months for you, okay? So now he's saying 60 days later, okay? 60 days later, because this is the first month, and then you have the second month, and then the third month. They didn't leave in the beginning of the first month. They left on Aviv the 15th. They left the 15th of Aviv, okay, which is the feast of matzah, which they would call unleavened bread, okay? So roughly in the third month after the people or children of Israel had left the land of Mitzrayim or Egypt, the same day they came to the Sinai desert, okay? The same day. You understand? So if it's the third month, and by the way, in Hebrew, I think there's probably another month that he names, but here he names the first month, and all the other months, he calls it the first month, the third month, in the 7th month, in the 10th month. He never speaks about anything else by names. He only calls them by their order and which number they are. Okay. So on this 3rd month, the same day, which is on the 15th, they came to Sinai Desert. Okay. The 3rd month, okay, is in the summer. Okay. The 1st month is the spring. Okay. So 1st month is the springtime, is the Aviv, in which it could be either the late part of May or the beginning of April. Okay. So here's the springtime. Okay. And roughly in the midst of this 3rd month is the beginning, roughly right before summer. So it's like the end. Okay. So I won't write summer. It's like the end of summer. Okay. Or excuse me, the end of spring. So they came there to the Sinai Desert. Okay. And after setting out from Rephidim and arriving at Sinai Desert, they set up camp in front of the mountain. Okay. Israel set up camp. They set up a camp because that's how they traveled. Moshe went up to Elohim. Okay. And Yahweh called to him from the mountain in the Sinai Desert. Okay. And here, and this is what he said. He says, this is what Yah told Moshe to say. Here is what you are to not say, but to tell the household of Yaakov. Okay. I want you to tell all the descendants of Yaakov and tell the people of Israel. Question, why does he mention Yaakov and why does he talk about the children of Israel, the people of Israel? Aren't they one and the same?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're one and the same, but what's the difference between Yaakov and the difference between Israel? They are the same person, right? They are the same person, but Yah named Yaakov Yisrael because he was able to prevail with men and he shall rule with Yah. Okay. So he's talking, he says, you have seen, okay, physically what I did to the Egyptians. Okay. And what did he do to the Egyptians? What did he do to them? Several things.
Yeah, the sea, the frogs, the
he had the plague.
7 plagues.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else did he do? What was the number one thing on that he really loved doing?
He killed the firstborn.
Yes, he killed the firstborn. So there was the death of the firstborn. And then if that wasn't enough, what did they keep? What did they do? How did he harden their heart? They said, what have we done? We let these people go. So what else did he do?
He destroyed them.
They started chasing Israel. What did God do?
He killed them.
He destroyed their whole entire army.
Mm-hmm.
He killed their entire military force. Right? So did he destroyed their land? He destroyed the land. Okay, listen to me carefully. He destroyed the land. He killed their firstborns, the people, and he also killed and destroyed their whole government, their military force. He literally destroyed that whole entire nation. Why? Because he gave a threat and said, if you don't let my son go, which is Israel, I'm going to kill your firstborn son. and he lived up to what he said. He did exactly what he said. Well, let's continue. He said, you saw what I did. You've seen what I've done, right? How I carried you on eagle's wings, okay? And I brought you out to myself, okay? This is Yah saying to Moshe to tell the children of Israel this. Now, if you, Israel, will pay careful attention to what I say and keep my covenant, then you will be my own treasure from among all the peoples, for all the earth is mine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, everything belongs to Yah. What covenant did he say that we supposed to keep? What covenant is he trying to introduce to them?
Covenant of no shame.
Huh?
Not to
His-
have any gods or idols.
The covenant that he's about to make with them, he's letting them know this is Yah's offer. He's making an offer to them. You know how you get an offer letter from a job and you're about to go into a contract? This is what he's making with them. He's saying, listen, if you would pay attention to what I say and guard, because this word keep means to guard, like with everything, with your life. If you would guard my covenant, which the agreement that I'm about to make with you, then you will be my own treasure from among all the peoples of what? On the earth, because all the earth is mine. So I'm making a deal with you and a contract with you to be my special treasure, like we read in the book of Malachi, and you will be that to me above all the peoples on the earth. And not only do I want you to do that, and in addition to that, you will be a kingdom of priests for me. You will be a nation set apart. Okay? That is what the opening relationship between Yah and the children of Israel is. This is completely different than what he made with Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Okay? So for us, he's saying, if you pay attention to what I'm saying, and you guard my covenant, which I'm going to give to you, then you'll be my own treasure from among all the peoples, my own treasure. Okay. And you will be a kingdom of Kohanim and a nation that's set apart. Okay. So we're going to be a kingdom of priests for him, and we're supposed to be a set apart nation. This is why we have the problems. Okay. He says, these words are words you are to speak to the children, not just the people. And Hebrew is called B'nai, which is Israel, sons of Israel, which are children, including both male and female. If there's one male present and 1,000 females, because the language is masculine, it will is masculine and feminine. But if there's a masculine, it gives respect to that man, and it call everyone a B'nai, a son. Okay. Moshe came and he summoned the leaders. Okay. And in Hebrew, it talks about the elders. Okay. The leaders in Hebrew is called Zachain, and he called the Zachain of the people, and he presented them with these words. What words? All the words that we just heard what Yahweh said, that Yahweh ordered him to say. That's all he came and told them. That's it. He didn't say anything else. He didn't add to what he said. He didn't subtract. He said all the people answered. After they did that, all the people answered as one, as a yakad, in unity, and they said, everything Yahweh has said, we will do. So it's not like Yah forced this upon them and said, hey, this is what you're going to do. Yah asked them. He gave them conditions that, look, this is what, if you pay attention, then you'll be my people, right? And the people, after the leaders and the elders went and talked to the people, they said, everything Yahweh has said, we will do. That's what they said, okay? Moshe reported what they said. So now you can see that Moshe is being used as a mediator. Okay. He's being used as a mediator. And he said, all the people answered as one. It says Moshe reported the words of the people to Yahweh. So he not only took what Yahweh said, he took the words of the people to Yahweh. Okay. And Yahweh said to Moshe, see, I'm coming to you in a thick cloud, so that the people will be able to hear when I speak with you. And also trust in you. For what? Ever. This is the reason why Yah came as well, is to let them know that they can trust the words that Moshe was telling them, not for until they came out of the wilderness, but to be forever. It's forever. That's olam. That's forever, people. Forever. To trust in you forever. You understand that? That's so when someone else comes with another word or another message, First thing you and I should know is if we haven't read the Torah, he says, the people are going to be able to hear when I speak with you and also trust in you forever. Any questions? That's forever. He didn't say until something else comes up. This is forever. Or until someone else brings another message. This is forever. Okay. Moshe had told Yahweh what the people had said. Okay. What did the people say? So Yahweh said to Moshe, go and tell the people today and tomorrow, separate yourselves. Them for me by having them wash their clothing, sanctify them. That's what that word means here. It means to sanctify. It means to set apart yourself by washing their clothes, okay? And prepare for the third day. So the first day and the second day. On the third day, that's when I'm going to come and visit you. This is where you get the Christian on the third day, he resurrected. Even though when you add up the day from the time that he was allegedly crucified, it's really day 4 and not day 3. Okay. So this is where they get it from. Okay. So on the third day, Yahweh will come where? He will come down on Mount Sinai. He's going to come down on Mount Sinai before all the eyes of all the people. Okay. You hear what he just said? Then he says you are to set limits. Okay. And before the eyes of all the people. You are to set limits for the people all around and be careful not to go up onto the mountain or even touch the base. Whoever touches the mountain will surely be put to death. Why? Because Yah is not a human being. And he's telling us that they will be put to death if anybody touches the mountain. Because the mountain is now going to be holy when Yah descends upon it. No hand is to touch it. You hear it? For he must be stoned or shot by arrows. No, neither animal nor human will be allowed to live. When the shofar sounds, they will go up on the mountain. Okay? So, any questions so far?
So when JC came around, like Jesus, when he came on the scene, the Israelites that read, you are to trust and listen to what Moshe said forever, that is why they rejected him in the first place, or was that the reason why the how can I say this? Is that why the controversy started, where a lot of them did not follow this? Okay.
Yeah, because remember the battle is between Moshe and Christ in the New Testament. You know, Moshe changed the water into blood. Christ changes the water into wine. You know, Moshe brought on plagues. You know, Christ comes to heal and do miracles, right? So it's so it shows is trying to show a different aspect of the Creator. One is what they call a demiurge, which is a hateful, spiteful God, and then the other one's a loving, kind God. One is able to. One says, if you violate my covenant, then I'll kill you, right? If you do anything that anybody that you're not supposed to do. You know, if you sleep with somebody's wife, I'm killing. If you touch a woman who was betrothed, and you and the woman both will die. If the young woman commits whoredom in her father's house, she's to be set on fire. You know, if you pick up sticks on the Shabbat, you're going to be put to death. You're going to die. Well, in the New Testament, it says that, you know, you don't have to worry about that because that's done away with. I am the Sabbath. You know, you don't have to worry about that. I know that you have heard that it's been said, but I say unto you, right? So you have a lot of different things that are being spoken and explanations. You know, one says you should murder. You gave the example, don't murder, but I say unto you, you shouldn't hate anyone. Well, if you read the Torah, you will find out that Yah has a law in there that says you shall not hate your brother or hold a grudge against him, because if you did and something happened to him, you would lose your life. So the community in which Yah is asking us to create, that we're responsible for, right, is a community of, and a kingdom and a nation of people who live in righteousness. That's what we are supposed to be. We are supposed to be a group of individuals that live by the laws and the statutes of the Holy One of Israel. Okay. And so often people get upset and say, well, I don't like those laws, right? I don't really particularly care about them or care for them. So then we look at, I think it's in chapter number 6. I think it's 4. Oh, all
Now,
right. So
there's
what we're going to do is,
there one thing, excuse
go ahead.
me, to so
Yeah.
does it still kind of go back to obedience? Because there's one thing, where your flesh through, just through practices, you're used to doing the wrong thing. And then
Okay.
when you find, the will of God in your heart, Yahweh, then you start listening to his voice, then the flesh is weak. There's going to be things that are going to, be uncomfortable for us, but in the flesh, but in the spirit, we're supposed to follow the order or thrive to. Is that what it's saying?
Well, no, actually, one of the things that that the Most High has said is, or he used Moshe to tell us this. I'm going to answer your question before I go into Deuteronomy chapter number 4. Okay.
Okay.
We'll put up
Okay.
here. It's not too hard. Okay. So there's
Okay.
a reference that talks about it not being too hard. Okay. And it's in the book of
Okay.
Deuteronomy. Okay.
Okay.
And I'm looking in my text here where he talks about what was the sky? Okay. Okay. Perfect. Chapter number 30, verse number 10. Okay. All right. So let's look at chapter number 30 in Deuteronomy. Okay. So I'm gonna go there right quick. And we're gonna look at this and I'm gonna be able to answer your question. I don't want to go to the one I was going to. I want to answer your question and address it. Okay. So Deuteronomy chapter number 30, and this is talking about, the flesh, right? And how the flesh is weak and how it's, sometimes it can be difficult to do the things that he's asking us to do, right? Because that's what we've been taught.
Yes.
Right. So this is what he says. Let's just start right here. No, I think we should start in verse number 1. I'll just read quickly. It says, when the time arrives, and this is going to answer your question, when the time arrives that all these things have come upon you, both the blessing and the curse, which I have presented to you, and you are among the nations. Key is to remember where you nations, which, okay, then at last you start thinking about.
You're freezing up.
Okay, that's when you're going to. Yeah. Okay. That's when you're going to, because we had a bad internet connection. That's when you're going to start thinking about what's happened to you, and you will return. Okay. You will return to Yahweh. Okay. So the first thing is you have to start thinking about what has happened to you. And to you means, and he's talking to Israel. Okay. What's happened to Israel? And what we know is there have been the blessings that he said it will happen. And then we've been living out the curses. Okay. So we know what the curse is, and that's in Deuteronomy chapter number 28, Leviticus number 26. He says, when you return to Yahweh your Elohim and pay attention, remember he says, remember the deal was, if you pay attention carefully what I say.
Yes.
Because this talk when, okay. And this is because we didn't do what he says, so he would scatter us among the nations. Okay. So he says, once you are paying attention to what you're going to return to Yah, your Elohim, and you're going not to anyone else. You're going to return to your God. Okay. Your God, Israel, your God. Okay. This right here, you is plural. Okay. And you're going to pay attention to what he has said, not anyone else, which will be exactly what I'm ordering you to do today. The individual that's talking right here is Moses, or what they would call Moshe. He's saying this will be the condition that you're going to turn around and you're going to listen to what I'm telling, what I've already told you to do today. That's called returning. In Hebrew, return means shuv. Okay, shuv has the idea, and kind of right up here is SHU, and it's usually a B, but I'm gonna put a V right here so we can pronunciate it. Shuv, it means to return. Where? So shuv means you're going this way, out being led out of your land for captivity, going this way, and then all of a sudden you turn back and go the other direction. So once here you were a slave and you got caught and you were being taken to another land. And the idea is to be taken out of your slavery, to put your clothes back on and go back here and return back where you came from. So that's what we're doing. We're returning, we're shuving, we're returning back to Yah, okay? And we need to pay attention to what he has said, which will be exactly, it will be exactly what Moshe, this is the I here, is ordering you to do today. You and your children, with all your heart and all your being. And at that point, when you do this, Yahweh, your Elohim, will reverse your exile and he will show you mercy. He will return and gather you where? From all the peoples which Yahweh, your Elohim, has scattered you. So that's all the nations. That's if we would turn to Yah with a whole heart. We're coming to answer your question. If one of yours was scattered to the far end of the sky, Yahweh your Elohim will gather you from even there. He will go there and get you. Yahweh your Elohim will bring you back. Okay. He's going to bring you back into the land. Okay. Not heaven.
Okay.
Your ancestors possessed. That's the promise. Remember, I told you he has made no other promises except for bringing us to the land. And he says, you will possess it. What? The land. And he will make you prosper where? There in the land. You're not going to prosper here. Okay?
Right.
And
right.
that's for today. You're not going to prosper here, so forget about it. You will become even more numerous than your ancestors through what? Through childbirth and babies. Okay. Then Yahweh, your Elohim, you're talking to the nation. Okay. Yahweh, your Elohim. If you notice, it keeps saying your Elohim will circumcise your hearts and the hearts of your children. Because right now our hearts are not circumcised.
Right.
Which brings me to the point where we talked about before, and I'll show you where that's at in Ezekiel chapter 34. He says, your hearts are not circumcised. Because if our hearts were circumcised, we wouldn't be scattered to the nations.
Right.
If our hearts were circumcised, we would have done what he asked us to do. So we're not circumcised. Okay. He says, then what? After Yah brings you back, Yahweh, your Elohim, will circumcise your hearts and the hearts of your children, so that you will love Yahweh with all your heart and all your being, and thus you will live. Because right now, that's life. Life is being back in our land and eating and having children and generations continuing. Verse number 70, Yahweh will put all these curses on your enemies and those who hated you. You see it on the news. And they not only hated you, but they persecuted you. They oppress you. But you will return, shuv, and what? Pay attention to what Yahweh says. What he says, not what anyone else is talking. You know what I'm saying? And not only are you going to pay attention to what he says, you're going to obey all his commands. That's what mitzvot means. All his commands, which I am giving you today. When he wrote this, he says, I'm giving you this today, talking to the children of Israel, right? Letting them know what time it is. He says, then Yahweh, verse 9, will give you more than enough of everything you set out to do. What? when I bring you back in the land. He will give you more than enough of everything you set out to do. The fruit of your body, that's your children. The fruit of your livestock, you like raising animals, you're going to have plenty of. The fruit of your land, with through your trees, all will do well. Everything's going to be perfectly fine when you get home and get back to your land. For Yahweh once again will rejoice to see you do well, just as he rejoiced in your ancestors. He rejoiced in Abraham, he rejoiced in Yitzchak, and he rejoiced in Yaakov. And what does it mean that it says for them to do well? Well, you know, Abraham was very wealthy. He had a lot of cattle, he had a lot of gold, he had a lot of servants. Yitzchak, same thing. What was passed on to him through his father because he was the firstborn and the chosen. Just like Yaakov, he received everything he received. Yah had blessed him, given him so much cattle that him and his brothers couldn't live together. He had plenty of children. You understand? So this is all physical. This manifested spiritually, right? He says, however, this is where this is going to answer your question. However, all this in verse number 10, however, all this will happen only if you pay attention to what Yahweh Elohim says, so that you will obey his mitzvot. His regulations were written in the book of the Torah. If you turn, shuv to Yahweh with all your heart and all your being, this can only happen. This will only happen if we do what Yah says. This is the only way that all this will happen. This is the only thing that's going to happen. Now, here's the answer to your question. For this mitzvot, or the commandment that I'm telling you, which what I'm giving you today, is not too hard for you. It is not beyond your reach. So when someone tells you and I that we can't do it because our bodies can't say no, they are lying. Because Yah told Moshe to write this down. For the commandment which I am giving you today, which he told us up here that I'm going to give you today, written in this book of Torah, it is not too hard for you. It is not beyond your reach. Oh, I don't have the right spirit. I'm only a human being. That's not true. That's not true. Right. Then he says this to counteract what's written in another scroll. He says, it isn't in the sky. It's not in the sky. So you need to ask, who will go up to the sky for us? You know, like someone ascending on a cloud,
right.
from their grave. He says it's not in the sky. You don't need anybody to go up into the sky for you.
Wow.
You don't need anybody to bring it to us and make us hear it. You don't need him to sit down and with a whole bunch of 5,000 people, and we sit down and, you know, we're hungry and ain't ate for 4 days, and he does a miracle, and then he turns around and tells you that we need to hear what he's saying because we never heard it before. It isn't in the sky.
Right.
So you don't need to ask, well, who, me, who will go up to the sky for us? Who's going to go to heaven and get it for us and bring it to us so we can hear it, so that we can obey it? Because that's the only way we're going to obey it, is if somebody brings it down from heaven. He says it's not in the sky. So you don't have to ask that question. Likewise, it isn't beyond the sea. So there goes
wow.
There goes your proselytizing, or sending people on missionary work. Okay, like I used to do. I used to go to the prison ministries at Solano County and Contra Costa County, and I used to go beyond the sea. I used to travel all over the place, so that you would need to ask, who will cross the sea or cross the gates at the prisons for us to bring it to us, to make us hear it so we can obey it. On the contrary, everybody listening, he says, on the contrary, okay, the word, this word, is very close to you. It's in your mouth. It's even in your heart. Therefore, you can do it.
Wow.
He says you can do it. The New Testament says you can't. Paul said you can't do it. Moshe says you can't. Yah told us, I'm going to come and speak to you directly so the people can hear me talking to you, so they can trust you forever, not anybody else. So how does
Wow.
Moshe end up telling us this? He says, look, 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 look. You see that exclamation mark? I'm telling you right now, look. I'm presenting you today with, on one hand, life and good. And on the other hand, death and evil.
That's an evil.
It's up to you.
Yeah.
In that I'm ordering you today to love Yahweh. That's the command.
Yes.
To follow his ways and to obey his commandments, his regulations and rulings. For if you do, you will live. But nobody wants to live. Everybody wants to die and go to heaven. He says you'll live where? In the land. And that's if you're living, then you can increase your numbers, your families. You can enjoy the food of the earth. You can enjoy the rain. You can enjoy the seasons. You can have bask in the sun, and you can know that Yah's going to provide for you because he's giving you the rain. And Yahweh will bless you in the land.
Yes.
They don't want the land. They don't want what Yah told them. And here's the warning. Here's the warning right here. He says, but if, and there's always an if, because it's up to you. If your heart turns away from what? From the Torah. If you refuse to listen to what? The Torah. And you're drawn away to what? To prostrate yourselves at the altar in the Baptist church before other gods and serve them. I'm announcing to you today that you will certainly perish. You're going to die. You will not live long in the land you are crossing in the yard. The reason why people don't like this, Sister Cheryl, is because they can't associate their behavior with the land. They don't talk about the land. Living long in the land. This is not part of the New Testament. That's not part of it. That's what confuses us because we want to go to heaven. If you and I knew, okay, so
caught up to meet him in the air.
Yes, but he's and the only thing that he promised our fathers was the land. He says that I promised your fathers. What I swore to, what only thing he swore to our father was land and descendants. That's the only thing, and people are not happy with that. They're not satisfied with that. They don't want to live long in the land. They don't want this. They don't want to look at the trees. They don't want fruit trees. They want to be in heaven and flying around, and they want streets of gold, and they want to be, you know, holy, and they want to reign with Christ for 1,000 years. And but Moshe didn't tell the children of Israel this. That's the New Testament for the Gentiles. That's for those people who believe that there's something for them. They remember, they don't get anything over here.
Right.
This is what we get. They don't get to live long in the land. We do. He says, I call on heaven where the clouds are and the earth to witness against you today. How are they going to witness against you today? Because if you don't do what he says, Yah's going to cut the water off. He said, I'm calling on these two witnesses today because they're faithful. That's why he's calling on the heavens, because they're faithful. How do you know they're faithful? Because the sun rises every day in the east and sets in the west. How do you know it's faithful? Because the moon always gives her light and the stars shine. Because that's what Yah says. He says, these are the two witnesses that I've called. I presented you today with life and death. It's your choice. I gave you a blessing and a curse. It's your choice. But I'm telling you, therefore, choose life. And life is connected to the land. Land and life go together. Because if you have a land, you have food. If you have food, you can have descendants. That's why he keeps saying that so that you will live, and you and your descendants. Loving Yahweh, your Elohim. That's all he's asking for us to do, is to love him. And we don't want to follow that simple command of loving Yah, because loving Yah means doing what he says. Yah is testing Israel to find out if they do truly love him.
My sister would say that because what you said, you left no room for anything else. You know what I mean? And like I show this kind of stuff to my sister, and she'll say something stupid like, "Well, he's the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, so it's all in." So Yahweh is all three and all of it together. I say, yeah, where do you get that foolishness at? No, that's what they told you.
Yeah, but see, she's only.
Well, that's what we're taught you
That's what
know,
we're taught that.
and yeah, and ingrained in us.
Yes,
And
I mean, from day one.
yeah. And
Yeah,
so, I
but
mean,
okay.
that's, and then, well, here's the other thing. There's, okay, we have like the Baptists and, you know, and then we have the Pentecostal,
Mhm.
which they have that controversy going on also, that Jesus is God manifest in the flesh. Jesus is God. And
Yeah.
then you
Yeah.
know, and when you baptize in the name of Jesus.
Yes.
And the controversy is with the non-Pentecostals are the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And I always said, well, what is the name of Jesus? If God are one, then it has to mean the same thing. But there is this ongoing
Debate. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a debate. It's something so they could get something out of it, like that being said, because there's nothing for them in here. So they made that so they could get something out of it. And also, it's a good way to run to set their laws up the way they want it and take control of it. But
And
I
take
don't.
control. Yeah.
Yes. So
Yeah.
so you can
The
see
masses.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes,
Exactly.
exactly. So now you can see that
Ongoing confusion.
yeah, he's
Right.
saying,
Yeah.
what is he telling them? He's saying, choose life
Yep.
so you can live, you and your descendants. That means your children, your grandchildren, your great grandchildren, and continuing on. Because if they do what Yah says, you are going to teach them, and they're going to teach them, and it's going to keep going on and on and on, like a plant, like a flower. Okay.
Yes.
And so loving
That
Yah,
part.
yes, loving Yahweh, your Elohim, that's choosing life is choosing to love Yah.
That's real clear to me. I don't need no one else to tell me anything else. What you
No,
said to me is real clear.
Yeah, and you see, a lot of times, remember the message in the New Testament is God so loved the world. Remember? Remember that message that God so loved the world, right? Like as if Yah has never said that he loved us. Yah has said to us, I've chosen you, I set my love upon you, I've loved you in your ancestors.
Right.
We've read that before.
Yeah.
Remember he said that? I've chosen that. He says, paying attention, and he can hear the same thing over and over again. What he says. Listen, I'm not going to listen and clinging to him. I'm not going to listen to anyone else, and I'm not going to cling to anyone else. Why? Because that is my purpose that's my life. The purpose of my life is to love Yahweh, okay? Loving him. I need to love him. I need to pay attention to what he says, and I need to cling to him, for that is the purpose of your life. That's all you're supposed to.
Yes.
What Yah has just spoken to me, you guys. Today I was depressed. I was depressed because I figure I lost so much in my life, my health, and I just got out of spinal surgeries. I'm weak. I can't do the things I used to do. I can't, I don't have my businesses anymore. I don't have all the different things I used to be able to do. And I'm just like, man, what's going on in my life? And then with the COVID and all this kind of stuff, my children growing up, they're leaving me, no one's really, they're doing their thing. And so I'm like, well, what is my purpose? And Yah just told me, your job is to love me, pay attention to what I say, and cling to me. That's what you need to do, because that is your purpose of your life. That's our purpose. And we haven't been taught that this is our purpose. Now listen what he says on this, and he wants to be very clear with us on what he just said about doing what he says and clinging to him and loving him and paying attention to what he says. On those things depends the length of time you will live in the land that Yahweh swore to give to your ancestors, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. This is about Yah fulfilling a promise that he made to them, which we never hear about in what they call the writings of Paul and the writings of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. We never hear them talking about that. Never hear about the land whatsoever. I've been asking people for ages to show me where the land is mentioned and the promises are mentioned. And they're never able to tell me.
And
so
Brother
what we
Dawid,
do now. Yes.
Oh, pardon my ignorance here. And then when we say the land, are we physically as a people going to be migrated back to a physical land, or is he speaking about us, our hearts, our souls going back to God?
No, what he is physical. And that's what
Okay.
we haven't been taught that. And that's what I'm going to show you right quick. It's in the book of
Okay.
Genesis. Okay. Remember,
Okay.
they told us that Yah was concerned with faith, right? And said, well, if we have the faith of Abraham, then Yah's going to be pleased with us, right? Like if you believe what he
Yes.
says, then he's going to be pleased with us. And then that's all you
Right.
need is faith. And then you could believe that, and he'll forgive your sins, and then when you die, you'll go to heaven, and you'll forever be with the Lord, right? And so they told us those things, but they didn't tell us what Yah had said. Okay. Well, Yah had said he made a promise to Abraham. Okay. And this is what he told Abraham. It's in chapter number 17. Okay. So if everything is based upon faith, right, like they told us, the first thing we need to go back and look at what Yah said to the man that this so-called faith that he had. Okay. The promise that he made to him. Okay. Here's what he said. When Avram was 99 years old, he was an old man. Okay. Yah called him when he was 75. Okay. So it's been quite some time. He's 99 years old. Yahweh appeared to Avram and he said to him, I'm El Shaddai. Walk in my presence and be pure hearted. That's what I want you to do. I want you to walk in my presence and I want you to be pure hearted. Okay. He didn't give him the written Torah like he gave to us. He just told him to do this. He says, walk in my presence and be pure hearted. Okay. I will make my covenant between me and you. Okay. I'm going to make a covenant between you and I. Okay. I will make my covenant, not the covenant that he gave the children of Israel at Mount Sinai. This is a whole nother covenant. Okay.
Okay.
That's why we don't understand it, because we think they're all one and the same. No, they're not. My covenant. This is another. Yah has more than one covenant. So I'm going to give you my covenant. This is another one of Yah's covenants between me and you, not the children of Israel, between me and you. And the you here is Avram. Yah's speaking to him, and he tells him, you're the you that I'm talking to. I will increase your numbers greatly. Your numbers, not anybody else's, yours. And so, because he's talking to Avram, Avram fell on his face, and Elohim continues speaking with him. He says, as for me, this is my covenant with you. You will be the father of many nations. That's his covenant. Okay. That's what he's promising him. He said, this is the agreement. Your name, the covenant is changing. Your name will no longer be Avram. Because I'm giving you a covenant, your name will now be Avraham, because I'm making you a father of many nations, because I have made you the father of many nations. So this covenant is predicated upon Avram being the father of many nations. And what? The father of many nations. Remember that I will increase your numbers. Okay. So this is about increase, meaning blessing. Okay.
Yes.
Your numbers. Okay. I will. Remember the I will here. So he says, I'll do that. Okay. What else he said? I will cause you to be what? Very fruitful. Okay. Not spiritually, physically. I will make nations of you. Kings will descend from you, from your body. I am establishing my covenant between me and you. What? To make you the father of many nations. And you, along with your descendants after you, generation after generation, as an everlasting covenant to be Elohim for you, meaning that I am going to choose you out of all the people that I've talked to and seen and listened to and saw walking. I want to be your Elohim. No one else. I'm making myself your Elohim. And not only am I going to be an Elohim for you, I'm actually going to be an Elohim for your descendants after you. That's why I keep saying the Elohim of your fathers. I'm the Elohim that is the Elohim of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. Isn't that what he said? So my covenant has to do with me establishing my relationship between you and your descendants. I want to be a God. want to be a power for you and for your descendants after you.
Yeah.
That includes us. That's on the line here. And here's another I will. I will give you and your descendants after you the land in which you are now foreigners, the land of Canaan,
Mhm.
as a permanent possession. I will be their Elohim, no one else. Yahweh Elohim said to Avram, as for you, you are to keep my covenant, you and your descendants after you, generation after generation. Now he's going to tell you what that is. Here's another covenant he made with him. Here is my covenant, which you are to guard, not only keep, Hebrews guard, between me, you, along with your descendants after you. Every male among you is to be circumcised. That's not spiritual, it's physical. You are to be circumcised in your flesh of your foreskin. This will be the sign of the covenant between what? Between me and you. So to verify that I promised you this land, right? That I'm promising you,
Mhm.
and I'm verifying that it's going to you and your descendants. I need to make sure that I have a mark, some
Mhm.
proof that it's that these are your descendants. I need to be circumcised in the
What if a
flesh,
goyim?
physically.
What if a goyim gets
Okay,
circumcised?
you got to follow the Torah. And if he's circumcised and he takes hold of the Torah and he says, I'm going to follow law, Yah says the same Torah that applies to him applies to you. If he decides that he wants to follow, and that's in Exodus chapter number 12, where he says, you know, a foreigner can't take the Pesach lamb and eat of it unless he's circumcised. Okay. So you are to be circumcised in your flesh of your foreskin, and this will be the sign, not a sign, the sign of the covenant between me and you. That's the proof positive. Generation after generation, every male among you, among who? You, Abraham, who is 8 days old, is to be circumcised, including slaves born within your household and those bought from a foreigner, not descended from you. So they could be circumcised. They had to be purchased with money. Okay. The slave born in your house and the person you bought with money, right, must be circumcised. If they belong to Abraham, they must be circumcised. Thus, my covenant will be in your flesh as an everlasting covenant. This covenant is forever. It's forever. And any uncircumcised male who will not let himself be circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, that person will be cut off from his people because he has broken my covenant. Okay. Now, he goes on to talk
Okay.
about
So if there's an adult male that's not, I mean, you know, when you have kids, everybody, these are things that I mean, I've done without even knowing why. You know, it's just, you know, they just said, you want your child circumcised? Yes. You know, my mom, yes, get them. Yeah.
you did, yeah. Guess what you
You know,
did? You without you knowing it, you fulfilled the covenant. You
okay.
fulfilled the covenant. It's an everlasting covenant. That's like, for example, I had a friend. He's like he's in his 60s,
Mhm.
and he asked me, he said, should I have to go? I'm not circumcised. I said, well, you need to go get circumcised.
That's going to be
He said, even
painful.
his age. I said, yeah, I don't care. Yah says Abraham was 99 years old, and they didn't have the technology that we have.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's painful. But he was 99. He said, if you don't keep this, it's an everlasting covenant. If you don't keep it and you break it, I'm going to cut you off from being your people. Okay.
Wow.
Right. And I'm going to show you what Paul said in chapter number 7, verse number 17. This is what he says. I'm in chapter number 7, 1 Corinthians 7:17. Yeah, what does he say? Here what he said. Paul says, only let each person live the life that the Lord has assigned him and live in the condition he was when God called him. This rule I lay down for all congregations. Was someone already circumcised when he was called? Then he should not try to remove his marks of circumcision. Someone circumcised when he was called, he shouldn't undergo what they call the Brit Milah, which is circumcision. He says being circumcised means nothing. That's what he said.
Wow.
So remember, he said that being circumcised means nothing. Yah says if a person's not circumcised, they broke his covenant. Paul is the one who's telling the children of Israel, along with a congregation of the Gentiles, that he shouldn't have to go get circumcised. It don't mean anything. Being uncircumcised means nothing. Nothing. You don't have to. Why? Why? Because what does it mean? Okay, what does mean something is keeping God's commandments. Well, isn't this a commandment that God told him to keep forever, for generation and generation?
Yeah.
You see, so when we look at and okay, so when I study these things and I look at them, these are the things that I look for. I match what they said. So here's a man that just said being circumcised means nothing. That's what this man just said. He said being circumcised means nothing.
Well,
I didn't say that. He said,
now that's if we go like to the medical side of things, circumcision is, it's cleanliness there because things can.
Yes, it's purification.
Purification.
Yes.
And so now if there are people who, let's say, there are some people, that are out there that can't afford or whatever in our modern day time. What happens with those people?
Well, that's between them and their creator. I mean,
okay.
Personally, like I called a guy one time and asked him, I said, well, what do you guys do when you have to get circumcised? He said, man, I go to the doctor and tell him it's unclean. It's unclean and it needs to be done.
It's unclean.
It's unclean.
Yeah.
Problems down there. I need to have it cleaned. And they'll do it. So but this is what Yah says. And this is what he's going to say. Let's see, what we're going to say is, what did he say? That's all we want to hear. We don't want to hear about what, So one of the things we do is we talk about what does he say, right?
Yes.
So let's look what Yah says. Yah says this. Yah calls Israel a bunch of foreigners. We're in the book of Ezekiel, chapter number 44, and we'll start in verse number 6, okay? He says, you are to tell the rebels, the house of Israel, so you know who the rebels are, that this is what Yahweh says. Remember, I told you, this is all we're ever going to talk about. What did he say? Yahweh Elohim says, house of Israel, enough of your disgusting practices. You brought foreigners, uncircumcised in both heart and flesh. So now that tells us the Yah is expecting 2 circumcisions. So he doesn't give credit to one and not the other. We read that, remember, he said, you need to do in your body, Abraham. Then we also read that he says, you have an uncircumcised heart in Deuteronomy 30. If you turn back, he's going to circumcise your hearts when he brings you back home. So he says this, you brought foreigners uncircumcised in both heart and flesh. So Yah wants them both.
Wow. Okay. Clean heart.
My sanctuary. Yes. You profane it. Yes, my house. That's his tabernacle. When you offer my food, the fat and the blood, thus in addition to all your disgusting practices. So guess what's disgusting? What you just said, being uncircumcised in flesh and in heart is filthy to Yah. They broke my covenant by bringing these people in. He said you brought foreigners because they didn't want it. So what they did is, instead of it being Kohanim and people from Levi, they say you brought in foreigners, both uncircumcised in heart and flesh, in my house, my sanctuary. That's Yah's house. His sanctuary and his temple is his house. You offered my food that you're supposed to give to him, the fat and the blood that's supposed to give to him. You gave all that in addition to all your disgusting practices. They broke my covenant I made with Abraham. Now, instead of taking care of my holy things, you have put these things and people in charge of my sanctuary. These people, the foreigners. See, they don't supposed to be in there.
Wow. Right.
And listen what he says. Listen, remember, he keeps saying it, and we gonna keep saying it. Here is what Yahweh says, okay? And the Elohim says, no foreigner, uncircumcised in both heart and flesh, is to enter my sanctuary. No foreigner living among the people of Israel, period.
No fraternizing.
They can't be in there.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because Yahweh says this. Rather, remember I told you it was the Leviim supposed to be in there? They got strangers in there. He said, rather the Leviim from the tribe of Levi, who went far away from me when Israel went astray, going after other idols.
Mm-hmm.
They will bear the consequence of their guilt. No one's getting away from free. You're going to bear it. They are to serve in my sanctuary. Who? The Leviim. Meaning they have charge to take care of it, to do the repairs, to do everything. They will have charge over the gates of the house and serving in the house. Okay, so they take the offerings. They're not taking and putting on the altar. They're just delivering everything that Yah told them. They shall slaughter the burnt offerings and the sacrifice for the people. They do it on behalf of the people. They're interceding on behalf of the people. They will attend and serve who them? They are there to serve the people. That's what the Leviim supposed to do for the people. And then the Leviim supposed to do that on behalf of the people, to give what the people give to the Kohanim, to the higher level priesthood, okay? Because they serve them in the presence of their idols and became an occasion for them to sin the house of Israel. Because the Leviim brought these foreigners inside of Yahweh's house, it caused the people of Israel to go against Yah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, they're doing it. They're bringing people in Yah's house. We could do it too.
Yeah.
I guess we can marry the people Yah told us not to marry. They're doing it.
Yep.
I'm raising my hand against them. Yah says, I'm raising my hand against them. Remember, he started off by saying they were rebels. I'm raising my hand against them, not for them, says Yahweh Elohim. They will bear the consequences of their guilt. How are they going to bear it? They will not approach me to serve me in the office of a priest. And they will not approach any of the holy things, or especially holy things, because they had access to them before. But because of what they've done, Yah says they're not going to be able to do that anymore, because they will bear the shame of their disgusting practices they committed. Yes, I will put them in charge of the house. They can't touch the offerings that way anymore. They can't eat of the offerings anymore, because they're going to bear the consequences of their behavior. Yah does not allow anybody to get away with anything. However, the Kohanim, which they're still from the same family, okay? They're still from the tribe of Levi. They're Aaron's priesthood, who are Leviim, the descendants of Zadok, which is from the tribe of Levi, who took care of my sanctuary when the people of Israel went astray from me, meaning there's some people who were faithful. They are the ones who will approach me, not you guys. They will, and they will serve me. It is they who, the Kohanim, the descendants of Zadok. So you can see right here the descendants. So it's about the descendants always of the family that who will attend me and serve me and offer me the fat and the blood. So a sacrifice is done with? No, says Yahweh Elohim. They will enter my sanctuary, approach my table to minister to me and perform my service. That's what they're going to do. So this is about talking about the temple in the time to come. When he puts the temple, and he's telling them, because you guys did what you did, you guys are not going to be able to come in here anymore, period. But what's the job of the Kohanim? The job of the Kohanim is this. They are to teach my people. They are to teach my people. They are to teach my people the difference between holy and common, and enable them to distinguish between clean and unclean. They are to be judges in controversies. They are to judge the people. They are to render decisions in keeping with my rulings, not their own. The rulings that he's given to Moshe, that Moshe told him in the book of Leviticus. At my designated festivals, because he's still having festivals. You're still gonna have designated festival, which are the 7 that I told you, which is really 8, including the Shabbat. They are to keep my laws and regulations. They are to keep and guard my Shabbats holy. They are not to come close to any dead person because the Torah says you can't, because they're close to Yah, because it would make them unclean. However, I do give them for their father, their mother, their son, their daughter, their brother, their sister, who has no husband. The sister can't have a husband. She has to be a virgin. They may make themselves unclean for them if they die, because that's what Yah says. That's what he says. And a lot of times we don't want to go with what Yahweh says. They told us that all we needed to do is listen to what they're talking about. And Yah says, I didn't tell you that. You have to listen to what I say. So let me tell you what he says. In Ezekiel chapter number 36, before we got to 44, Yah says this: human being, the house of Israel, when the house of Israel lived in their own land, they defiled it by the manner of life and their actions. That's how when they were there.
Mm-hmm.
The way that they lived their lives and what they did, their way before me was like the uncleanness of a woman on her cycle. Meaning that she was never, because when a woman's on her cycle, you have to be set apart. You can't come in, you're unclean. And that's perfectly normal. Okay. A man that has a wet dream in the middle of the night and semen emission after you have sexual intercourse is unclean before this holy Elohim. We're human. Therefore, I poured out my fury on them. Why? Because of their manner of life and their actions. Because of the blood they had shed in the land. What blood? The innocent blood. Because they defiled it with their idols. Because their idols allowed them to kill people and get away with it. Their idols allowed them to kill the innocent and walk away free. Because they felt like the idol they serve would free them. So because of this, Yah says, I scattered them among the nations and I dispersed them throughout the countries. I judged them in keeping with their manner of life and their actions. When I sent them to the nations I was sending them, I judged them. Why? To be in the places they are according to their manner of life and their actions. When they came to the nations that they were going to, they profaned my holy name. How did they do that? By their manner of life and their actions, because they still haven't changed. They're still the same people they were when they were in the land. In their life and their actions, they still do the same thing. Are they shedding innocent blood today on the streets? Yes. Are they robbing people today? Yes. Are they disrespectful to their parents? Yes. Are they having sex with other people's wives? Yes. Are they committing adultery? Yes. Are they robbing and stealing? Yes. Are they looting? Yes. Are they robbing their employer from wages? Yes. He says they're profaning my holy name. How is that possible? Because we don't think that we're linked to him, but we are, because he put his name on us. Mm-hmm. So the people, that people said of them, the people of the nations, the people said of them, these are Yahweh's people who have been exiled from his land. They said that. They know that. But I'm concerned about my holy name. I'm only concerned about my holy name. I'm not concerned about anything else. I'm not concerned. I'm only concerned about my name, because it is my holy name that you and us as a people have been profaning among the nations. He's concerned about his name, okay, which the house of Israel is profaning among the nations where they have gone. The United States of America, Sacramento, Fairfield, Vacaville, San Francisco, Oakland. Therefore, tell the house of Israel. This is what he's telling Ezekiel to tell them. Therefore, because of this, I need you to tell the house of Israel that Yahweh Elohim says this: I am not going to do this for your sake, house of Israel. I just want to let you know, but for the sake of my holy name, which you have been profaning among the nations where you went.
Mhm.
I will set apart my great name, Yahweh, to be regarded as holy, since it has been profaned in the nations. So there, what he's saying is, since it's been profaned, I have to set it straight now. I got to show everybody that I am set apart. And that's what I'm going to come and do. I'm going to show them. He says, I will set apart my great name to be regarded as holy, since it's been profaned in the nations. Since it's been happened, you profaned it. The nations will know that I am Yahweh, says Yahweh Elohim. What? When? Before their eyes, what they can see, I am set apart through you to be regarded as holy. Now, how is he going to show the difference between holy and unholy? Well, the only way the Yah has ever shown the difference between holy and unholy is he will burn up everything, and whatever's left and whatever remains is holy. I need you to hear what I'm trying to tell you right now. When Yah was to consecrate something, he would consecrate it to being holy and set apart once it hits the fire. When he would bring the animals in there to be sacrificed, they would hit the fire. Once they hit the fire, they were made holy. And then only the people can eat them was the Kohanim. When the children, Aaron's two sons, Avihu and Nadav, went before Yah and they did not sanctify his name and they profaned it, Yah burned them up from the inside out. And he consecrated himself in front of everybody's eyes. When the rebels came against Yah and they came out with their censers, Yah sent fire down and burned everyone up. And when he burned them all up, the things that were left over were the censers that were made out of bronze. And they asked Yah, well, should we do with it? He said, beat out those censers and make it into a plate and put it on the altar, because now it's holy. So when Yah's talking about when I'm going to be set apart and before their eyes, he's telling you and I right now that I'm going to bring fire before their eyes of the nations, and I will be set apart through you, because you and I will be regarded as holy, because when the fire hits, you and I won't be burned like the three Hebrew boys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, when they were put in the fire. I will take you from among the nations, and I will gather you from all the countries and return you to your own soil. That's physical. Then after I take you back, then I will sprinkle you with clean water on you, and you will be clean. I will cleanse you from all your uncleanness and from all your idols. When I bring you back to your own soil. I will give you a new heart. When I bring you back, I'm going to cleanse you from all your uncleanness, from your idols, the Christ in the New Testament, Buddha, Allah, all these other gods, all these other stuff that we've been doing. He says, I'm going to get rid of all that, and I'm going to give you a new heart, and I will put a new spirit inside of you. I will take the stony heart out of your flesh and give you a heart of flesh. He's talking about softening up our minds. And once I do this, I will put my spirit inside of you. My Holy Spirit, my spirit. I'm going to give you a new heart. I'm going to give you a new spirit. Well, remember we said he's going to give us a new heart. He's going to circumcise us. Listen to this. I will put my spirit inside of you and cause you to live by my laws and respect my rulings and obey them. You will live in the land I gave to your ancestors. You will be my people, and I will be your Elohim. I will save you. No one else is going to save us. I will save you from all. I will save you from all your uncleanness. Okay. And after I finish doing this, to prove that this is talking about actual literal land, this is what he says. I will summon the grain and increase it, and not send famine against you, because that's one of his judgments. I will multiply the yield of your fruit, like we talked about, from the trees and your descendants. I will increase the production of your fields, so you never again will suffer reproach or famine among the nations, because we've been hungry. We haven't been able to eat everything we need to eat or what we want to eat, because we've been limited in our finances, been limited in our production, been limited in what we can get and what we can't get, because we have a certain budget for food, and we have a certain budget for this, and we have a certain budget for that, and this and that and the other. Then you will remember your evil ways, because we've been rebellious, your actions, because your manner of life and how you were living, that were not good. As you look at yourselves, you will loathe yourselves from the guilt and your disgusting practices. What was the disgusting practices? The stuff that we were going and the stuff that we were eating, the things that we were wearing, how we were living, how we were treating each other. Okay. And again, he reminds us and he says, understand. This is what he's saying. This is what the creator is saying. Understand, says Yahweh, Elohim, that I am not doing this for your sake. Instead, you need to be ashamed and you need to be dismayed for your ways. Why? House of Israel. Why is he asking us to be dismayed and be ashamed? Because what Moshe said is, you can do it. You haven't done it because you haven't been taught. But when I tell you that you can do it, I'm telling you, you could keep my laws and statutes and commandments. If you could not keep my laws and statutes and commandments, then why did I send you in exile? Why am I punishing you? Why am I now the bad father that put you out the house? Because I just knew you didn't have the capacity to do what I told you. Yes, I know that you don't have the heart. I know that you don't have my spirit. But even though you don't have my heart and my spirit, it still doesn't mean that you couldn't do it, because Moshe said that you didn't have the heart when I gave the commandments to you. It's not the commandments the problem. The problem is you. You don't want to do it. Human being, you don't want to do what I asked you to do. It's not the laws. It's our minds. We're making our own mind up and saying we can't do it. He said, I judge them according with their manner of life and their actions. He wouldn't sit something in front of us if it wasn't able to be done. They're not hard. That's what he says. Yahweh says, that's what's from him. He says, when the day comes for you to cleanse me, to cleanse you from all your guilt, I will cause the cities. Now, what is the guilt that he's talking about? Our disgusting practices that he mentions here has to do with our inability to serve him as only one Elohim. The reason why we're in this situation is because we love idols. Because the idols that we serve is the idols that tell us that we can continue to do what we do. Yah's laws are about how you eat and how you treat each other. Okay. But Israel left with idols in their hands. They did not leave with a clean slate. They left with idols in their hands. So it's not, Yah is telling us they left with idols. So the day comes when I'll cleanse you from your guilt. I will cause the cities to be re-inhabited, the ruins to be rebuilt. Where? In the land. The land that was desolate will be tilled. Where it formerly lay desolate for all passing by to see, it's going to be tilled. The land that used to be desolate will become like the Garden of Eden. And the cities formerly ruined, abandoned, and waste have been fortified and inhabited. So now, then the nations around you will remain, because I'm killing a lot of them, will know that I am Yahweh, have rebuilt the ruins, I've replanted what was abandoned. Only I, Yahweh, have spoken, and only I, Yahweh, will do it. Now, in addition to this, Yahweh Elohim says, in addition, I will let the house of Israel pray to me to do this for them, to increase their numbers like sheep. Why are they going to be asking for that? Because a lot of our people are going to die, and they won't be a lot of us. Okay. Like the flocks of the sheep for sacrifices, like the flocks and the sheep in Yerushalayim as the designated times. In this degree, will the ruined cities be filled with what? With flocks of people. Then, only then, they will know that I'm Yahweh. Right now, we don't know that. We don't know, because he always says what he has to do for other people to see what he's talking about. Because no one believes anything he does until he does it. That's the sad part. No one takes up and says, well, I believe what you say. No one wants the land. That's what the thing is, you guys. No one wants Yah's land. They don't want it because we've never been taught. And the reason why they don't want it is because the Gentiles, they don't have any other, any inheritance. They don't have any inheritance. They don't. So that's why they do what they do.
Yep.
That's why they had to come up with a new narrative, because they don't have any inheritance. That's why he tries to get you away from circumcision, because you don't have any inheritance. He's saying, well, since we included you guys in now, you don't have to be circumcised. But we just heard what Yah says. Yah says you can't even come to his temple. foreigner, circumcised or uncircumcised, right? So this is what Yah is saying. I know we have never been taught this, but it's what it is. We could do what he says. He says, have you tried it? Once you start doing what he says, you'll be like, well, because when I gave up pork, I was like, man, that was easy. He said, yeah, well, what's the next thing on your list? I said, well, I got a whole bunch of stuff I got to get rid of. He said, okay, if you gave up the bacon that you love so much that you have with the eggs and the toast and the English muffins and all that, and the bacon cheeseburgers and all that, I know that you can do this now because that was in your stomach. And, you know, it's hard to go away from your stomach. So if you could get rid of what's in your stomach and you had enough discipline for that, then I'm pretty sure that you can, you know, prepare your meal on the day before the Shabbat. I did it. I know I'm pretty sure that you can, you know, turn your desires from wanting to be, you know, something else than what I called you to be instead of learning my laws, my statutes and commandments. You can do that. I used to cry at the altar every Sunday, crying and begging Yah to forgive me and repeating the same thing over and over and over and over again. And nothing ever worked for me. I wanted someone else to take responsibility for my behavior and my manner of life. And Yah says, I've exiled you because of your manner of life and your actions. And you need to be ashamed of your manner of life and actions. And the reason why I'm asking you to be ashamed of it is because your ancestors are the ones who taught you this. And because of their inability to do what I said, you suffered from it. But does that give you an excuse to do it? No. You read Ezekiel 18, he says, you can make a choice to not live like your father. Your father's doing something wicked. You don't have to be like him. I actually told you in the book of Ezekiel chapter 20, don't be like your parents. I told you that. If your parents didn't know, that's between me and your parents. Your grandmother didn't know, it's between me and your grandmother. That's not between me and you. Between what's going on between me and you is between me and you. Period. There is no other interceders. There's none of that. I'm going to hold you responsible. I'm going to hold you accountable because you belong to me. So when I bring you to Ezekiel chapter number 18, he tells us in the first couple of verses, he tells us straight to our face. He says, as I live, look, all lives belong to me. All lives. Everybody's life belongs to Yah. Both the parent's life and the child's life are equally mine. So it is the person who sins himself who must die. It's the individual. It's the individual. Then he says, consider someone who is righteous. He tells you all the righteous things he does. Goes through it. He does what is lawful and he does what is right. That's a righteous person. They do what is lawful and they do what is right. That's what righteous is. He doesn't eat on the mountains, raise his hand towards idols of the house of Israel. He doesn't defile his neighbor's wife or touch a young woman. Okay, a woman during her menstrual impurity. He doesn't wrong anyone. He turns any pledged property to a debtor as given as collateral for a loan. He takes nothing by robbery. He gives his food to the hungry and clothing to those who need it. He never demands or accepts interest on a loan. He refrains from what is evil and he judges honestly between one person and another. Seems very reasonable to me. In short, he lives according to my laws. Not how he feels. He lives according to my laws and he observes my rulings. And so as to act faithfully, because that's when we observe and do and live according, we're being faithful to Yah. Such a person is righteous and he will certainly live. Why? Live where? In the land. Okay. He'll be able to live and eat. Now, suppose he has a father, right? He's a father of a son who is a robber and a murderer and does any of the things and does any of these to a brother. Whereas the father himself does none of them. He eats on the mountain. He defiles his neighbor's wife. He wrongs the poor and the needy. He takes by robbery. He doesn't restore pledged property. He raises his eyes towards the idols. He engages in disgusting practices and demands, accepts interest. Shall he live? The answer to that is no. He will not live because he engaged in all the disgusting practices. He must be put to death. By who? By Yah. His blood is on him. This is what the creator is demanding of his creation. But now, suppose he has a son who sees all his sins his father committed. And what does he do? Does he leave it in the hands of someone else? No, he tells him to think about them. That's the problem. We don't think. And he behaves differently. He said, I don't want to do that, right? I don't do anything my father did. I'm not doing that. I'm not leaving my kids. I'm not doing that. He doesn't eat on the mountains. He doesn't raise his eyes to idols of the house Israel defile his neighbor's wife. He doesn't wrong others, keeps pledged property, take robbery, but gives his food to the hungry and clothing to those who need it. He refrains from oppressing the poor, neither demands or accepts interest. He obeys my rulings and lives according to my laws. He will not die for his father's sin, but he will certainly live. Yet his father, because he's oppressed so cruelly, committed robbery against his brother, never did anything good among his people, he will die for his sins. You ask, why doesn't the son bear the father's guilt? Kind of like how they're trying to tell you and I that we're bearing the sin of Adam, that he's our father and he's the beginning of all creation. So we should bear his sin. That's the sin that Christ came to pay for. No. This right here destroys that, because he says, even if Adam was your father, you can think about it and say, I don't want to be like that. So is Yahshua showing that a person has capacity? Yes, he is. When the son has done what is lawful, because he can do it, he has done what is lawful and right, and has kept all my laws and obeyed them. This is after the 10 commandments, the so-called 10 commandments. He will certainly live. The person who sins is the one that will die. Sin what? Intentionally going against Yah's commandments. A son is not to bear his father's guilt with him. He can't. And you say, well, I thought you said that we're paying for our ancestors. Yeah, we're experiencing, because of the lack of their communication to us, we're experiencing the hardship of everything we're experiencing because they wouldn't listen. And as a result of that, we are consequently experiencing it. We're not paying for it. We're experiencing it. What you and I are paying for are the things that you and I are doing. Okay. So nor is the father to bear his son's guilt. The righteousness of the righteous will be his own, and the wickedness of the wicked will be his own. There's only two types of people on the earth, and it's the righteous and it's the wicked. However, listen how Yah feels about the wicked, because it's beautiful. However, if the wicked person repents, okay, turns, because that's what repent means. Remember shuv? If he returns, if he turns away from his way, meaning that he was going in one direction of doing everything that Yah said not to do, and he's going in this direction and do this, and he's just doing all what's unlawful, and all of a sudden he says, you know what? I'm thinking about it. I'm going to turn around and go back the way I was supposed to. Yah says that person turned, he repented, he shuved. What? He repents of what? Of all the sins he committed, the things that Yah just mentioned, the menstrual cycles of cheating. If you notice, a lot of that stuff had to do with how you treat somebody, taking bribery, oppressing people. It's not just sin of, what we think, smoking some weed or drinking. No. He said the stuff he mentioned about how we treat each other, but keeps my laws and does what is lawful and right, he will certainly live. And this is the wicked. But the wicked has to do something. They have to repent. It's not about how weak we are and how we don't have the ability to do it. None of his transgressions. Again, absolutely not one of his transgressions. None of his transgressions he has committed will be remembered against him. Not one of them. And that's without the death of anybody innocent. All he needs to do is he needs to just turn and repent and say he's sorry from all what he's done. And then he has to turn around and keep what I said, and he has to do what is lawful and do what is right, and then he will live. But I will not remember nothing against him. That's how wonderful I am. For the righteousness that he has done, he will live. Because that which is righteous is what he has done, which is keeping Yah's laws, doing what is right, doing what is just, doing that which is lawful. Do I take any pleasure at all at having the wicked person die? That's the question that Yahweh asks. And he's going to answer that question for us. The answer to that question is, wouldn't I, Yahweh, prefer that what? That he would turn from his ways and live? So you're telling me he has the ability to turn? He has capacity? Yes, he does. On the other hand, when the righteous person turns away, so now Yah's going to show you how just he is. If a righteous person turns away from his righteousness, which is keeping the laws, and he commits wickedness by acting in accordance with all the disgusting practices that the wicked person does, will he live? So once saved, always saved? Nah, none of his righteous deeds that he has done will be remembered. So Yah says that the wickedness that a person has done, I won't remember any of it if he turns. None of the righteous deeds that he has done will be remembered if he turns away from Yah. If the righteous person turns away from Yah's laws, Yah says, I'm not remembering any of the righteousness that he's done. For the trespasses and for the sins he has committed, he will die. So a righteous person can go one way and a wicked person can go one way. So you can see how just Yah is. So now, this is what Yah says we're going to say. So now, you say, Yahweh's way isn't fair. Listen, house of Israel. Listen, house of Israel. Is it my way that's unfair or your ways that are unfair? What they were saying is he was unfair because they felt as if they'd done anything that was righteous, it would automatically qualify them for him to accept them. And he's saying, and then also too, they were mad because they were saying, well, if you're wicked, you get a chance to just turn to righteousness and then you get to walk away and nothing be remembered. It's kind of like that parable that they used about the person that had 1 talent versus 5 talents, or the person who forgave much, who had little but forgave much. This is where the story that you're trying to give us, but the Yah is unfair because they don't like that Yah will forgive a wicked one. They feel that I've been righteous the whole time. And so when they turn away from any of his laws and they commit any wickedness, Yah says he's going to die. So Yah is being fair. He's demanding for everyone, whether you're righteous or wicked, to continue in his laws, whether you're wicked or righteous. Now, if you turn, that's the question of anybody going wicked. No. So when the wicked person turns away from his wickedness he has committed, and he does what is lawful and he does what is right, he will save his life. He committed, does what is right, does what is lawful. He will save his life, not anyone else. He himself. You're
frozen.
and he's about to tell us what Israel. He says, because he thinks for us. Okay. That's
You may have to log off and log back on, David.
Can you see it now?
I could see it.
Sure.
It just goes in and out, and sometimes it freezes, and when it comes back in, then it speeds up, and so you can't tell what you're saying. I can't see you. I can hear you.
Okay. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Can you guys see the screen?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So verse number 28, we're gonna close with this. Verse 28 says this: the reason why he saves his life is because he thinks it over. That's the first step. He thinks about it. And the second step is, after he thought about it, he decided to turn from all his transgressions he committed. He will live and he won't die. Yet the house of Israel says Yahweh's way isn't fair. House of Israel, it is my ways that are, is it my ways that are unfair or your ways that are unfair? Because remember, to keep telling him that he's unfair. Therefore, house of Israel, I will judge each of you according, okay? Because this is about judgment. Therefore, I will judge each of you according to his ways. I'm going to judge each of you according to his ways, says Yahweh Elohim. So what does he want us to do? He wants us to repent. He wants to turn yourselves away from your transgressions, which is your idols, so that they will not be a stumbling block that brings guilt upon you. That's what I want you to do. I want you to repent and I want you to turn. Throw away from yourselves all your crimes that you've committed and make yourselves a new heart and a new spirit. Okay. For why should you die, house of Israel? And what does he mean by making yourself a new heart and a new spirit? He's saying, prepare yourself so when I come, I won't have to put you to death. Why? Because I take no pleasure in the death of anyone who dies.
Mm.
So Yahweh Elohim says, turn yourselves around and live, because I don't take any pleasure at anyone who dies. No one, whether you're righteous or wicked. I don't take any pleasure.
Wow, that's
Because you don't
heavy.
have you don't have to die. You can live in the land and you can have descendants and you can eat and drink and have fun and come and celebrate with me and everything on my holidays and on my Shabbats and everything. So all I'm asking you to do is to turn away from your wickedness and your crimes. And if you won't turn from your wickedness and your crimes, you're going to die. And I don't take any pleasure in that. So if you die, it's because you decided that you don't want to think about it and you didn't want to turn. So it's a two-step process. There's 2 steps. And if you don't follow those steps, you're going to die. If you're not doing what is lawful and right, you're going to die. That's what he says. That's what Yah says. That's not, what we hear from these churches, and we don't hear this from anybody.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So we got to be careful, like, what it is. What we have to make up our minds. Are we going to do what he says, or are we going to listen to someone else? And I'm telling you that I decided that I'm going to listen what he says.
Mhm.
Yes.
That's all. I'm just going to do what he says. Let's say it together. Baruch atah
Mhm.
Yahweh,
Baruch atah Yahweh,
Wow.
Eloheinu,
Eloheinu,
Thank you.
Melech haolam,
Melech
Melech haolam,
Alam.
Yatzar,
Yatsar,
Or,
Or,
Or.
Uvare,
Uvore,
Hoshek,
Koshek,
Check.
Ose,
Ose,
Shalom,
Shalom.
Shalom,
Uvare,
Uvare,
Eth HaKol.
Et
Yes.
Hakal.
Akal.
Blessed are you, Yahweh, our Elohim, King of the world. He is forming the light and creating darkness, making peace and creating all things. Hallelujah.
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 Hallelujah.